Future Proof is sponsored by Concordia Dental Healthcare, expert care you can trust.
Hello and welcome back to Future Proof. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah Hopwood, as I continue this interview with Graham Bannister. And in the first half, we were talking about his IT company. And before we leave you today, I will be asking him to share his contact details, so you can certainly search him on the web. But he was also talking about his early years in school and something that was written on his school report that could have floored him, but it didn't floor him. And then he shared his journey about his early years with his parents on a farm with his father, and how his father inspired him and how he made things from scratch and put things together. And we have a story for you now in this second half. Thank you for staying with me, Graham. It's really good to see you. So emotional intelligence, I've asked you before, what do you know anything about emotional intelligence? And you said very nicely, no, not really. And one of the things that I love about emotional intelligence is tied up with something called NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and it's about mirror matching, and it's about also putting yourselves back into the moment, particularly for people who lack confidence. And I remember doing this with our children and saying, remember a time when you were confident, remember a time when you were feeling really, really good in yourself. Where were you? What were you doing? And then we actually then say, draw a circle around that, stand in it and draw a circle around that. And also anchoring, there's some anchoring that involved with it. And so when you then want your confidence back again, you stand in that circle, you reignite with that emotion, and then you can really go off, not on a false confidence, but it actually lifts you. Now, I know your confidence is absolutely fine, but you have an inspirational story. So first of all, I want you to say roughly how old were you and where were you, and then I want to hear the problem that you solved.
Okay, so this was when I was about 13, 14, somewhere around there. And it was when we had just moved over to England, and my father had bought an apple farm. So it was an apple farm in Kent.
Yeah. So your father gave you a problem. What was the problem?
Yeah. Well, it was at a time when the whole family was involved in agriculture. My brother was very into it. Obviously, my dad was. I didn't get the agriculture bit. The farming side to me was, it just wasn't on my radar.
It's a bit like me at school.
But what I did enjoy was the engineering side. And we had a packing house for grading apples. So these apples were graded in size. And one of the problems was that when you measure an apple, when you grade an apple, you measure it across the if you imagine the core standing upright, it's across the other way. And the problem was we had a belt which took the apples along a series of gates which were set at different sizes. And these apples would sit on this belt, but they'd sit on with their core facing up, so the wrong way to measure it basically. So my dad said to me, right, can you come up with an idea of a way of turning it around so they're actually measured the correct way? So I had to think about it, and I came up with an idea using a wallpapering brush. So I cobbled together this idea of having a wallpaper brush which just held the apples back a bit, and then they started rolling, and they rolled on their edge, on the circumference.
So it's like the circumference, yeah.
Rather than sitting on their core on the bottom. And it was just enough to enable them then to start rolling along this belt the correct way and get measured the correct way. And it worked superbly. And it's the first point where I thought, yeah, I want to do design. It was a real sort of inspirational time.
So you solved the problem, and then you had the duty to go and tell your dad.
Yeah.
How did that work? How did you do that?
I thought it was great. So yeah.
And how did he respond?
Yeah, he was very pleased. Yeah.
Because sometimes it can knock you flat when we do something like that, and then you go with almost like this nugget of gold to somebody going, I've done it, and you tell them, or you share it, and you don't get the reaction you want, and some might just go, yeah, great. here's the next problem or what have you, don't celebrate. So really good, very inspirational.
It was great. He really did encourage
And
us.
so that kind of, if you like, design, that technology leads to why you do what you do now.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to say is, first of all, how do people find you if they want you and want to know more about you?
Okay, probably the easiest way is through my website, which is www.southernpcservices.co.uk, and you can find all my contact details there.
Yeah.
I'm also on Facebook as well under Southern PC Services.
Yeah, good. So this is the time of really sharing nuggets of gold. If I think you've got children, haven't you? Yeah. So, So if you imagine your children sat watching, or somebody who's feeling a bit lost, worried about their future for any reason, are there any little nuggets of gold that you can share with them? That that you use, tools in your toolbox that have empowered you to basically win, which is what you're doing. If you're running a successful business, you are winning in your own way. How can you inspire somebody?
I think what I'd say to them is be confident. You're capable of far more than you think you are, and just get out there and be confident in what you do.
They do say that we only use 7% of our brains.
Probably.
And the rest of it is just sat there dormant. And if you ever need to test that or see it tested, often the example is used of maybe people, a car accident or something like that, or actually an accident on a farm, and where somebody is trapped under something, how amazing it is. You can find the strength to move something that you would never normally be able to move, which is tapping into the brain. Okay, so what I'd like to do, I think, is kind of feed into, I think, being confident and believing in yourself, because I think confidence levels fluctuate. And I think there's always a danger of being overconfident as well.
Absolutely.
I've seen it before where people overconfidently talk about who they are and what they do, and there isn't the evidence of the trail there, and then they find themselves in very, very sticky water because somebody has then called them up on it, and then they're really flummoxing and falling. So fake it till you make it is good. Or fake it to become it is even more inspirational, but you've got to do the work to do it.
Yes.
And you've only become it if you successfully deliver on what you said you were going to do. Yeah. Richard Branson, there's a great quote from him or something. If you're ever challenged, say yes, then work out how to do it. He never says say yes and then wing it on the day. We don't do that. Moving forward in your world of IT and what you're doing, how do you see that developing in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, with the presence of machine learning, art? Is your business going to look the same in the next 5 years?
I'd like to think that I will. At the moment, my distribution is basically probably about 60% domestic and 40% business. I'd like to shift more towards the business side. I think there's a greater need there, and better income there as well.
Yeah. So you get involved with the maintenance, what have you. Do you get involved with, for example, building websites or anything like that, or is it just the maintenance?
I do some websites as well. They're quite time consuming, so I do them very few and far between.
So what do you think of the argument that moving forward websites, the relevance of them, are going to diminish as social media and the presence of social media and Pinterest to Facebook to actually gain momentum? Do you think there's truth in the fact that social media in the end will trump websites, or do you think there is still a long-term need for websites?
I think there's a long-term need for it, definitely. I'm not sure how much the social media people are taking notice of social media, and on a business such as mine, I don't do a lot of advertising on Facebook or any social media platforms. I rely on face-to-face contact with people, and then if they want to know more, they can go onto my website and have a look at it. So I don't use it as a way of getting my name out there, if you like, is people that know me would then go to my website and have a look at it.
Yeah. And is this small businesses, micro businesses predominantly you work with, or are you saying future planning you want to
There
build?
are small businesses, yeah. I don't want to go too big.
Yeah, you're happy in your market.
Yeah.
Okay, so remind us, Graham, how do we contact you?
Okay, southernpcservices.co.uk.
Good.
That's the website.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure.
I hope that you've been inspired by listening to Graham's story about sort of coping, if you like, using what you have, mending rather than replacing. And also, if you're not sure about the advice you're being given about replacement, maybe go and get a second opinion and just see if someone can actually save it for you. Have a fab week, and I hope that you can join us next time. Thank you very much.
Great.